Hey guys, it's Luna Farrow. I want to welcome you all to the 200 subscriber special Q&A thing. You're going to find out very quickly that outside of my narrations and voice acting, I'm actually not very well spoken. So I hope you enjoy every single minute that you get to laugh at me as I attempt to fumble with your questions. I'm going to try as much as I can to cut out the ums and uhs and blah. But, I put out a video asking people to ask me questions in the middle of December, I believe. And since then, you guys have come up with some wonderful, wonderful questions I wanted to answer here in this video. I'm going to go through them person by person and one by one and try to spend as much time and thought on each one of them as I can, or as I am willing to, because obviously we don't want to reveal our entire life story here. I don't think anybody does. But, okay. And I've noticed in the past 2 weeks that another 60 or something of you had joined me, which is kind of astonishing, because I'd never thought that anything that I make would ever attract that much attention. But, I hope you derive some insight and some enjoyment from the shit I'm about to put out on this channel. So, 3, 2, 1, go. First questions come from Tristan Fields. You've actually been in a couple of my things. Hi. And she's asking, what was your first fanfiction, MLP or otherwise? I talked to you about this, about how you want me to answer this question, and we determined that we should just have me answer it as a 3-part question, I suppose. So one answer each for a fic I've read, a fic I've written, and an audio adaptation I've done. So, My Little Pony was not actually the first fandom that I started doing narration for. I'm probably never going to reveal what exactly the content of those narrations I did was, but I can tell you that I started doing fic readings for the Elisabeth fandom, and that's also where I started doing writing as well. I was really, really into it a couple of years ago, and I was especially into the character portrayal of the Crown Prince Rudolf of Austria, and of death, the shadow of death that haunts everybody in that fucking musical. So I did some fic readings that shipped those two together because that was a popular ship at the time, and I'm not really a shipper per se, but I was intrigued by the relationship that the two characters had, and that was portrayed on stage, and the interpretations that fans tend to have of them. So there was that. Some of my earliest narrations of fics in that fandom were actually in German, but I did a terrible job. They don't even have the noise removal done on them, so I'm definitely not putting those on my channel. The first fic I ever read, just read, didn't narrate, God, must have been in the Naruto fandom back when I was on FFN, fanfiction.net, and I read a lot of ship fics and a lot of comedy. I wasn't really into the dark fics back then, but the first one I can remember was this pretty bog-standard ship fic where Kakashi and Sakura have to infiltrate a village and pretend to be married or pretend to be something like that. No, it was Sakura has to pretend to be a stripper and Kakashi has to be involved with investigation in some other way. And they get into multiple awkward situations, but you could probably guess what those kinds of situations are, given that it's it wasn't actually the greatest fanfic. I think it was mostly just done for the entertainment of it. But 13-year-old me thought it was pretty damn good. The first fic I've ever written I don't even think exists on my computer anymore. I've always tended to lean more towards original fiction, and I've written plenty of that, especially during my time at uni with a friend of mine, but while stuff that I like influences my writing, I really haven't written very much fanfiction. I think there was one I wrote for a friend of mine based on Les Miserables, The musical, not the book, though with some influence from the book because I had been reading it at the time. Next question comes from Cosine Pitch Shifters. Hello, Sine. And according to him, it's a milestone-certified Q&A question. You must answer this. Are you a connoisseur of the thick, that's THICC, alliance, where we welcome and support anyone who possesses the physical marvel of the anatomy of thick? Well, you've seen me, Cosine. And, I think you are very aware that no, I'm not. I'm a very slender person. I've been skinny my entire life, and I don't really have very much desire to build muscle or anything like that, since any time I do get fit, I just wind up getting slenderer. Or at least, not like worrisomely so, just, I tend to get lean rather than big. And I know you've told me that protein shakes and eating lots can help with this, but my appetite isn't really the greatest, so... Next question. From Princess Melody Sky. What drives you to create new content? Motivation to get up and be like, I'm a talk a thing today. You know, it's really a love of literature and a love of acting and of art, really. The desire to explore characters through your own experiences. And a lot of things go into making an audiofic, and I enjoy every single one of them, except maybe the cutting out of blubs and and ums. But, for Pyrene, particularly, what got me really invested in it was this love for the characters, the love for the world that Ether Echoes was creating. A desire to create an adaptation worthy of the story that she had created. But beyond that, and slightly shallower, maybe, or deeper, depending on your point of view, there's an aspect of accessibility to it. People love to write stories about their favorite shows, books, musicals, films, and expanded universes even. But screen readers really don't do the job for everyone. Like, it's basically listening to Microsoft Sam reading you the dictionary every single day of your life. I worked for a woman who had gone blind sometime in the middle of her life, and she used a computer that had screen reading software on it, and it would read to her like lightning speed, and I could barely understand a single thing it was saying, and half the time was even going through and passing stuff like the backslashes and the whatever the hell they're called, the tags in web pages and things. And while that really wasn't part of the inspiration for beginning to narrate, it was definitely an eye-opener because I realized that that was one of the many benefits that you can get from having somebody read a story to you rather than having a computer do it. Reading to someone brings the story to life in a way that no machine has yet been able to do, though with the advancing of Vocaloids and things that might change. But not everyone reads. Even if you're not blind, even if you're not dyslexic, I've got friends who prefer to listen to things, who prefer to watch things, who identify more as visual and auditory people and do not have the patience or simply have too much going on in their minds or in their lives to sit down and read a book for various reasons. And as for why I do it and don't just recommend other people do it, it's part of out of love for them, and partially just because I enjoy getting into the story, getting into the characters, seeing what I can do with my voice, trying to push myself to get better at accents and get better at employing my full range, and trying to bring the story to life as much as possible. And the next questions come from Shyborg, or Heaven Sent Soldier on Twitter. and he wanted to ask, when doing readings, narrations, or voiceovers, do you have specific vocal exercises or techniques you do to prepare yourself? And the answer to that is sometimes. I am the most awful voice artist ever. I don't warm up for anything unless I'm really convinced that I am not on my game. And then I'll just do something like stretch out my lips or make funny faces until I can no longer feel my face. Next question from him is, any tips and tricks of the VA trade you can impart to those just starting out? I'm just starting out, so I'm still learning what I need to do and what I can do to get better. In the past year, what I've done to help improve my trade was look at a lot of articles and blog posts from people who've been in professional VA trade for a long time and learned about what they do and how they use their software and how they continue to improve. And where applicable and where I agree, I use their tips to improve my work. So yeah, I'd say if you want tips from somebody like me, then that would be Google is your friend. If you have anything you're not certain about, then don't hesitate to look up things about software you can use, how to obtain that software, what sorts of things are standard, I guess, for producing quality work, like noise removal. Definitely noise removal. And don't take everything you read or are told to heart, because not everything is going to work for everyone, which I guess is the point of literature. The next question you asked was, are you into video games? If so, what's your favorite genre? Yes, I am into video games. I've always been kind of a casual gamer, I suppose, is what the word is. As much as that sounds disparaging. I play games to enjoy them, so I look for really good games, no matter what the genre is. It's basically the same as I would go for with any book I would want to read or any fanfic I'd want to read. I'm less concerned with the genre as I am with enjoying it. Though, even within that, I tend to prefer adventure games, puzzle games, RPGs, horror games. Pretty much the kinds of things that I like to read, since they're both different types of storytelling. And then you've gone on to ask, are there any stories or voices you've wanted to do, or any stories you've been approached by another narrator to try out for, but were too nervous to do due to their content or subject matter? Nope. You're probably going to see it in February, but when I first encountered Wooten, the first thing he asked me was if I'd want to be in a Klopfic for him. I said yes. I think that should probably sum that one up. I'm cool with playing villains, I'm cool with playing or narrating any story, no matter how dark or how sexy or whatever it is that people want me to do. It depends really on the quality of the work and what the story ultimately says to the reader about how that content fits into the world. Like, yes, there are millions of unanswered questions that go into existing, I guess, and literature is about trying to make sense of it, I guess, or trying to explore it in any way you can. But it's very easy to tell a story that says unpleasant things about how somebody in a certain particular situation should handle it, which in those cases I would probably be less inclined to read. That was really vague, so as an example, no, I would never read 50 Shades of Grey. You cannot make me read it. I might read it in the context of like what Team Fallstar did at one of the cons they went to, where they did it in the characters' voices and obviously made it into a comedy, but I would never, ever, ever read it seriously. That sort of thing. Your next question was, out of all the choices you could pick from, why did you choose a bat pone? Because I like spooky things, because I think bat ponies are cute and underappreciated, and because there are no bat ponies in the narrator community that I've seen so far. So I went straight for it. I went for the throat, as it were. And then, if you could visit 1 month or live the rest of your life in a fictional world, your choice of media. Where would you go and why? Oh boy. I mean, I think the obvious answer here is Equestria, because Equestria, for all of its dangers and adventure-y shenanigans, is actually a really safe, supportive place for people to live. It's kind of, sort of a Sugar Bowl utopia type place, and yeah, sure, not everybody's going to agree with having a monarchy, and Celestia certainly has her own problems, and the elements of Harmony have their own issues to deal with. But by and large, the show doesn't depict anything that normal ponies couldn't deal with. That, and yeah, that's because it's aimed at children, and we as the fandom have taken it upon ourselves to demonstrate the nastier implications of various things within the story and within the world. But if we just take the show at face value and take the world of the show at face value, it's really not a bad place. My second choice would probably be the Star Wars galaxy. Na 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 and all that. Just, I mean, even if I couldn't access the Force, it still seems like a really neat place to live. And your final question, Shyborg, was, why did you start narration VA? Hobby or possible career? I started it as a hobby. I just wanted to have something to do that was creative, that I could enjoy and look back on. Something that didn't involve the intense amounts of labor that go into writing, which I also enjoy, but frequently find myself less inspired to do. I suppose I went into narration as a way to cheat, because I really enjoy literature and really want to enjoy creating something, and so I wanted to find a way to blend consuming and creating in the most efficient way I could think of. And that sounds kind of cold and heartless, but I also just really, really love doing what I do for you guys. I might consider it as a possible career, but that really depends on whether I can handle the stress of auditioning for a million things, and yeah, I'm probably not going to go into it as a career yet. I'm considering it, but it's way, way off in the future. And we have questions from another person who's been in one of my fic readings. Hi, Mami DeLugo. I think it's Mami DeLugo, right? So you've asked, who is your favourite character in Through the Well of Pyrene? Hands down, it's Amelia. I probably can't make a very articulate argument about it over the microphone, because I'm not really the most articulate person in person, or speaking freely as I am right now. But suffice to say that I identify very closely with her journey, and I understand who she is, where she comes from, at least from my own perspective. And more than that, I appreciate so deeply her portrayal in the story. It would be so easy for the author to have decided to kill her off, or punish her, or have her imprisoned, or any number of things. It takes a lot of courage to take a character down the path that Amelia takes, and then forgive her, and give her a chance to find a way back to the light. So many of us close the doors on people without realizing it, simply because we protect ourselves with this belief that no one can change, and that evil or good and things in between are immutable. But they're not. They're choices we make. They're a series of choices we make. And that's really the core of the story of Amelia from my perspective. Your next question was, who is your favourite character from the show itself? And that's Fluttershy. I know she doesn't really get as much development as she deserves. I think in the first couple of seasons we saw a lot more of her and the depth that she has than we did later on, because the story started to focus much more on Rainbow Dash and Twilight Sparkle. But we see this in The Best Night Ever, and we see this in a couple of other points, but Fluttershy isn't just the nice, sweet, shy pony who hates confrontation. She has things boiling quietly away inside her. She's got insecurities and fears that I can identify with. And yeah, you're going to find that I tend to enjoy characters that I can identify with, even if I don't necessarily like them as people. But I've been saying for the past 5 or so years that Fluttershy is basically me. So, your next question was, talk about the bat some. Where'd her design come from? Colours, cutie mark, etc.? Is she just you as a pony, or does she have a story? Honestly, I created her as a face to have on the internet because I have no desire and no intention of doing a face reveal at any time in the period that I spend creating videos for you guys. So I wanted to use her as a proxy for myself. To an extent, I do RP as her with a couple of people, and I do use her as a sort of persona that mostly but not entirely accurately reflects how I would greet people if I lived in a giant castle with tons of books in it. And she's the medium through which I have so far interacted with you guys, because it's more comfortable to me to write an announcement video script before actually saying it out loud rather than saying, hey guys, I'm going to be doing this. But other than that, no, she doesn't really have very much of a story behind her. I kind of imagine her fitting into the world of, like, I suppose the imaginary world of the fandom and the imaginary world of the narrator community as being somebody who lives on her own, kind of far away from the rest of most of the community, but more out of a need to have time to herself than anything else. Your final question, and I'm sure there are plenty of you asking this, is why is your voice so luscious? People have been telling me this for years, even before I started doing narration, and I don't have the foggiest idea why, but then that's because it's me. There are plenty of people out there whose voices are more luscious than mine. I would recommend GutiuSerenade, ShadowOfCygnus, Neighrator Pony, and Illya Leonov. But, I honestly can't really give an answer other than genetics? Yeah, we'll go with genetics. There's a whole series of questions from Daylover on YouTube, but hopefully these should go by pretty quickly. Oh, bollocks, okay. Sorry, Mummy DeLugo, I forgot to answer the question about her design, about my OC's design. That came from my favorite colors and the realization that I had while browsing the internet that bat ponies are usually portrayed as grey. I mean, I've seen them in different colors, but apparently, at least the 4chan headcanon is that they're grey. But I also felt that a grey coat would fit best with the black and purple theme that I went with. So now we're going to go to Daylover's questions. What is your cutie mark? It's a microphone. It's a vintage microphone inside a heart-shaped shock mount, I think. One of those things. But I guess it represents the heart that really goes into creating good content, creating good narrations and voice acting. Because you don't just sit there and stare at the page and think, okay, it has to sound like this. Some of the best voice actors I know, you can hear them feeling it. You can hear them feeling what they're doing, what they're saying, empathizing with the character. And that's something that I really aspire to do. If I were to say about a time that I got my cutie mark, it would probably be around the time that I recorded Chapter 8 of Through the Well of Pyrene. Because, believe it or not, I was actually crying in that one. And that's probably the best acting job I've ever done so far. Ever. I'm hoping to make that much better as time goes by. You then asked, when did you become a brony? Well, I've never really identified as a brony. I enjoy the show, I enjoy the characters, but more importantly, I enjoy the community around it. And that's what I'm most involved in, so I'd say I'm a fan, and a fan VA, but not a brony. Your next question was, what does that necklace on your OC mean? It doesn't really have a meaning, it's just sort of a little emblem with the moon on it saying, "Hi, my name's Luna," sort of. And that's really it. I don't really have any deep meaning behind that. And your next question was, I noticed you're a bat pony. What fruit is your favorite? Peaches. And do you think your OC looks like you IRL? Yes, I actually designed her to look like me based on, sort of like me. I designed her based on a headcanon the author of Through the Well of Pyrene, Ether Echoes, has about how humans turn into ponies, namely that their pony form retains their natural hair and eye color, and their coat color as well, or their coat color reflects their skin color in some way. But I ran with that and went with a pony who has, as my personal favorite colors, a black and purple mane, and then the grey coat is just because I felt that it matched her, and the blue eyes again were a liberty taken just to match the rest of the whole color scheme, because naturally I have green eyes, and that wouldn't really go as well with the character, I didn't think. As for her accessories, the black stockings, the necklace, I do actually have that necklace in real life, but I actually got it on Halloween, Nightmare Night, whichever you prefer. So I didn't actually have it before I made the OC, but once I saw it existed, of course I went and snagged it online. Your next question, do you have a special sun pony? No, and I'm not particularly looking for one right now either. Then you asked, favorite MLP pony? See my response to Mami DeLugo about Fluttershy. And then you asked, favorite song? That changes depending on my mood, depending on which artists I'm listening to most. Probably among my favorite songs, plural, are Play Dead by The Birthday Massacre, Pictures of You by The Cure, probably, Enjoy the Silence by Depeche Mode, also World in My Eyes, also by Depeche Mode, and Komm Süße Tod by Eisbrecher. And you then asked your favorite art. I don't really have any favorite art pieces that I can think of at the moment, except I think it was a piece by Rembrandt, and it's called The Return of the Prodigal Son, and it's on display in the Winter Palace in St. Petersburg, Russia right now. And I got a view of it when I was studying there last year, around this time, and at the time it touched me deeply because I believe very deeply in redemption and in forgiveness and in trying to heal through relationships with others. It's not always possible to heal a relationship with another person when you've done them wrong, but you can always find a way to learn from any mistakes you've made, and you can always find it in yourself to move forward and to forgive, whether that's yourself or someone else. And honestly, forgiving yourself is so much harder than forgiving somebody else. Favorite book? Again, I read too much to even have a favorite book. Among my favorites are basically Neil Gaiman's entire collection, but especially American Gods and The Graveyard Book. I like Harry Potter. I'm particularly fond of Anna Karenina, and I'm also stupidly fond of the novelization of Revenge of the Sith, which is by Matthew Stover. Go look it up, read it, enjoy it. It's excellently written, it adds a ton to the story of the film. It makes a ton of things make a lot more sense, and is just generally really good writing. You then went on to ask, if you won a lot of money, what would you use it for? I think about this all the time. I earn enough to make ends meet, and that's about it. So I often dream about what I'd do if I had enough money to pay off my student loans, pay off my parents' student loans, and pay off some very choice close friends' student loans, because in America we're all destitute wage slaves. I'd probably save the rest, donate what I could, and spend as much as I could on travel because so many of my closest friends live all over the globe. And I'm not isolated here. I live with people I care very much about and who care about me. And there are people in my town whom I know and love very dearly. But it's very hard to live in our world, this amazing interconnected world, when physical distance is still so great and travel prices are so high. Your next question was, your favorite of your own work, like which story are you most proud of? I haven't written very much, at least nothing that anybody on the internet has seen, except maybe a few choice people. But there's a story I'm working on with a friend of mine about a personification of death and its interactions with the mortal world. That's probably, the stuff that I've written for that is probably my favorite stuff for sentimental reasons. But if you want to go with voice work, I think beyond even Through the Well of Pyrene, my favorite thing that I've done in anybody's work was voicing the unicorn in Cold Light, which is on Scribbler's channel. Go look at it right now. Don't even watch this video, just go and check Scribbler's channel. It's a beautiful, beautiful story, and so difficult, but so important. You then asked my favorite food and drink and favorite candy. Food, curry, drink, tea, candy, chocolate. And then your final question was, is there something you won't read, or can we request something? I won't read bad stories. I won't read stories that, I'm trying to think of how to say this. I won't read stories that don't fit in with the kind of content I want to put on my channel. Again, see the question where I mentioned 50 Shades of Grey. I will never read something that romanticizes abuse or rape or anything like that. I will read about those things, but I will never narrate, a story that romanticizes or defends things like that. That's basically my only line. And holy shit, Jacob M. Keen, aka Dr. Pepper King on YouTube, is asking 13 questions, which I will go through as quickly as I can. And not because I don't like the questions, just because I need to try to ease up on the rambling. So, number 1, which of my fanfic readings is your favorite? This applies to number 2 as well. I haven't actually listened to very many of your stories, Jacob, I'm sorry. But I did like the one about the diamond dogs. Number 3 is, what are your thoughts on Undertale? I played it in 2015 when the hype was going around about it, and I really enjoyed it. I haven't gotten past the final boss yet, so I probably don't have a full picture of the story, but it was an amazing journey when I played it, and I'd like to play it again. Preferably the pacifist route. I went with the so-called neutral route, which I thought existed, but which is apparently just a watered-down version of the other one. Number 4, what are your thoughts on Cuphead? I haven't played Cuphead. I've seen people talking about Cuphead. I have no desire to play Cuphead, just because it's not really the kind of game I like to play. I'm not really into I'm not really into side-scrolling Mario-type things, which is what it seems to be. Number 5, least favorite Disney movie? Least favorite Disney movie. Disney's come out with bad movies, but I haven't watched most of them. I guess of the ones that I've seen, Cinderella? I mean, Cinderella is cute, but, it's kind of a shallow story. Number 6, what's your favorite Disney movie? Oh boy. Hunchback of Notre Dame. It's dark, it doesn't shy away from difficult subjects, it's got beautiful music, it's got amazing, amazing animation and art, and it's got wonderful characters. I actually watch that movie when I need comfort, as strange as that may sound, and I listen to the soundtrack whenever I'm feeling in the mood for epic music. Because seriously, you can't top those Kyrie eleisons. Your next questions are the same thing but about Pixar movies. And to be honest, I've got a Teflon memory and I can't really remember most of the Pixar movies that I've seen. I liked Up. I liked Monsters, Inc. when I was a kid. I don't really have any reasoning or arguments that I can make because it's been a long time since I've had to think about any analysis of Pixar movies and the flaws and merits thereof. And the same applies to DreamWorks movies, with one exception, which is that I can say that The Prince of Egypt is definitely my favorite DreamWorks movie. Just, you hear the opening score, you see the animation, the gorgeous, gorgeous design, and the plot, and the characterizations, and you sort of have to fall in love with it. Number 11. If you could rank each of your least favorites on one list and your most favorites on another, how would you rank them? I'm assuming that refers to the 5 previous questions. Probably Hunchback of Notre Dame, and then Prince of Egypt. And I can't say anything for least favorites because I tend to relegate everything that I don't like or that I like less into a general category rather than ranking everything in my head. And it's actually difficult for me to choose favorites and non-favorites for that reason, because everything has merits, and trying to find reasons that one thing is better than another in your eyes is kind of like trying to explain why the tangy taste of oranges is better than the sweet taste of apples. Number 12 was an interesting question. Who do you consider your closest friend in the MLP voice acting community? I only recently got involved in it, as a matter of fact, and so I've gotten to know a bunch of really wonderful, lovely people, but it's been such a short time that I don't want to say this as a final judgment or anything. But so far, I'd say that I feel the closest friendships with GutiuSerenade and ShadowOfCygnus. They're both lovely people, each in their own ways, for their own reasons. And there's not really a lot more that I can say on that. And your final question, number 13. Which actor do you like more, Patrick Stewart or Tony J? Fucking Tony J. Tony J. Definitely Tony J. You can't beat his Frollo. Ever. Okay. Our next question comes from Cameron Smith on YouTube and Twitter. And you're asking, Dearest Luna, now that you're the Bat Power Ranger, which MLP bad guy will you fight? I think probably Chrysalis or Tyrek. The next set of questions is from Matt Edinetti on YouTube. And you've got 4 questions for me. Number 1, what made you decide to become a fic reader? Lots of things, I suppose. But I was inspired partially by my mother, who read to me every single night when I was a child, and partially by Jim Dale, who has narrated Pushing Daisies and all of the Harry Potter books. And if I am ever able to get nearly as good as he is at narrating, I will consider myself accomplished. Question number 2, what inspired your OC design? We've covered that question before with previous people. Question number 3, what are your favourite characters from the show, main, side and background characters? Of the main 6, Fluttershy, which I've discussed in detail. Side characters, Apple Bloom. I'm really fond of Apple Bloom and Zecora. And background characters, I'm actually partial to Dr. Hooves. As a Whovian, you can't really help it, I suppose. And your final question was, do you have any fanfics of your own that you've written? And the answer to that is yes. They will never see the light of day, because I mostly write stories for friends and not really out of an inspiration from whatever it is that they were based on. I'm actually not even terribly inclined to write fanfic if I can write an original fiction that takes inspiration from elements of something I like. And our next questioner is Lilibeth on YouTube. And you've asked, what kind of pictures do you like the most to be drawn of your OC? Cute things. Funny things. Anything really. But, and this ties into the corollary on this question, because I'm a perv and mostly draw clop, but I would also like to draw something that you like better. Addendum, also spoilers, I already began something. Well, I'm looking forward to seeing it. I don't mind seeing, not safe for work / cloppy things of my OC, but this would be a good time to tell the world that I like to see a variety of things drawn of my OC. I don't want to be confined to one identity or one role, and I suppose that's the quandary of an actor, because you have a voice, you've got a face, you've got various things to your name, and people in the industry and people in fandom will generally try to place you based on what your sound would most fit, based on stereotypes that they have, and that's always going to be a challenge. But I'm honestly not comfortable with people drawing only NSFW stuff of my OC, or only cute or funny things. I'd like to be seen as a multifaceted person, much as everybody else in this world surely would like to. So yeah, sure, draw the thing you're drawing, whatever it is, but just keep in mind that I'm not just a sexy bat. I admit I'm aware that people like my OC, and like her for various different reasons, spanning the distance between cute and attractive, but I like a happy medium. And our final question comes from Whimsical Emicorn on YouTube. And this comes back to what I was talking about before with the reasons that I enjoy voice acting and narrating fics. And you asked, do you think that even a little blind pony like me could do fanfic readings? I've always wanted to do them, but I'm too afraid due to my slight blindness. Honestly, if you have the tools you need to do a fanfic reading, whatever those tools are, and you're able to adapt to the medium that you're using, yes, you can. Yes, you can. And that's really all that I can say on the matter, and everybody has to deal with their individual problems differently, of course. But if you want to do fic readings, go ahead and do fic readings. Computers, technology, screen readers, all those things have advanced so much and so fast that we've been able to adapt for numerous different difficulties. And I'm sure you can. If you enjoy it, if you have a desire to act and read and make something that will give off an idea of your interpretation of a story, then yes, do it. And if you have the means, yes. That's the end of the questions for this session, and I want to end it with a thank you and a hug to everyone who has commented on my videos, who has, for whatever reason, decided they want to subscribe to my content, who continues to be lovely and fun and funny and a general joy to interact with. Thank you, all of you, and thank you for listening.